The shopping cart's wheels squeaked against the linoleum floor, a tiny protest that mirrored the tightness in Ryan Morgan's chest. His calloused fingers dug into his worn jeans pocket, searching for what he already knew wasn't there. The fluorescent lights of Save Mart buzzed overhead, harsh and unforgiving, on this Tuesday evening as he stood at the checkout counter, the single pack of store-brand diapers waiting on the conveyor belt. "That's $14.87. The cashier announced, her voice flat with end-of-shift fatigue. Ryan pulled out a crumpled 10 and 4 singles, placing them on the counter with precision. His fingers continued their desperate exploration of his pocket, emerging with 2 quarters, 3 dimes, and a handful of pennies. He counted them out once, twice, placing each coin deliberately onto the laminate surface. "You're still short by 87 cents, the cashier said, louder than necessary. Behind him, 18-month-old Lily squirmed in the shopping cart seat, her chubby face flushing red as she began to whimper. The whispers started behind him, a line 3 people deep, their impatience palpable in the recycled air. "Shouldn't have kids if you can't afford them," someone muttered, just loud enough to be heard. Ryan's neck burned hot. He'd fixed Apache helicopters in Afghanistan, rebuilt engines that kept soldiers alive in combat zones, yet here he was, unable to buy a single pack of diapers for his daughter. His jaw clenched as he patted down his coat pockets, knowing there was nothing there but lint and old receipts. "I can remove it from your total," the cashier offered, reaching for the diapers. Lily's whimper transformed into a full cry, now tired and hungry. Her tiny legs kicked against the plastic seat, her dark curls so much like her mother's, damp with sweat against her forehead. "I'll cover it." The voice came from behind him, calm and clear. Ryan turned to see a woman standing there, elegant, in a tailored navy coat. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a simple twist, her expression neither pitying nor impatient, just matter of fact. "I've got it," she continued, stepping forward with a crisp $20 bill. "And add a pack of wipes in those fruit pouches." The cashier hesitated, looking between them before taking the money. Ryan stood frozen, the coins still clutched in his fist, the weight of them suddenly insignificant. "No," Ryan's voice emerged rougher than intended. "Thank you, but I don't need charity." The woman's blue eyes finally met his, something unexpected flickering there. Not offense, not pity, something closer to recognition. "It's not charity when you have been on both sides," she replied quietly. "Those diapers aren't for you anyway. They're for her." She nodded toward Lily, whose cries had softened to hiccuping sobs. Ryan's protest died in his throat as the cashier finished ringing up the items. The woman handed the bag directly to him rather than placing it in his cart, a subtle acknowledgement of his dignity. "I'm not a charity case," Ryan said, the words coming out low-edged with something raw. Not anger, but a wound that had been festering longer than he cared to admit. "I know," she answered simply. "I never thought you were." She paused, something shifting in her expression. "When I was a child, there were days I went without diapers too. I remember how people looked at my foster mother when she asked for help." The unexpected confession hung between them, changing the air. Ryan felt the fight drain from him, replaced by a strange sense of recognition. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Not surrender, just acknowledgement. "Thank you," he murmured, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. The woman nodded once, then stepped back to allow him to leave. As Ryan pushed the cart toward the exit, Lily reached for the pack of wipes with curious fingers, her tears already forgotten. In the parking lot, Ryan secured Lily in her car seat, an aged contraption with faded fabric that had been a thrift store find. He placed the shopping bag on the passenger seat of his 1998 Ford pickup, the once blue paint, now a patchwork of rust and primer. As he pulled out of the parking lot, Ryan caught a glimpse of the woman walking to a sleek black Audi, her posture straight, her movements efficient. The drive home took 20 minutes through neighborhoods that transitioned from commercial strips to increasingly worn residential streets. He parked in his usual spot, gathering Lily and the precious bag of supplies. The security door hung slightly ajar, the lock having given up months ago. Ryan climbed the 2 flights of stairs, adjusting Lily on his hip as he fished for his keys. That's when he saw it, a white notice taped to his door, the bold red letters visible even from the stairwell. His stomach dropped as he approached, already knowing what it would say. Eviction notice, 30 days. The paper trembled slightly in his hand as he read the details. 3 months behind on rent, final warning, court date already scheduled. The words blurred together as Lily squirmed against him, oblivious to how their world was crumbling around them. Inside the apartment was clean but sparse. A second-hand couch with a blanket neatly folded over one arm, a coffee table that doubled as a dining surface, a small TV that Ryan rarely turned on. Lily's portable crib took up most of the bedroom, leaving just enough space for Ryan's mattress on the floor. He changed Lily's diaper, fed her one of the fruit pouches, and settled her in her crib with a soft toy, a stuffed rabbit missing one ear that had belonged to her mother. Once Lily's breathing deepened into sleep, Ryan sank onto the couch, the eviction notice still clutched in his hand. 3 months behind, almost $2,400. Impossible on what he made from sporadic repair jobs. The military pension helped, but most of it went to paying off Sarah's medical bills. Even 2 years after her death in that car accident, the debts still haunted them. His phone buzzed with a text from Mike at the garage. Got a transmission job tomorrow if you're free. 200 cash. Ryan typed back immediately, I'll be there at 7. Then he added any other work this week. The reply came quickly. Nothing solid, times are tough all over. Ryan set the phone down and looked at the eviction notice again. $200 tomorrow. Maybe another job would come up. Maybe he could talk to the landlord. Maybe. The maybes had sustained him for 2 years, but they were wearing thin. Morning came too quickly, gray light filtering through thin curtains. Ryan moved through his routine with military precision, changing Lily, feeding her oatmeal, packing her diaper bag with the new supplies. Mrs. Petrovich answered her door in a faded house dress, her white hair in neat curlers. Ah, little Lily. Come to Baba, she cooed, lifting the toddler from Ryan's arms. I should be back by 4. The transmission job shouldn't take more than 8 hours. Take your time. Lily and I will make pierogies, yes. She bounced the little girl, who giggled in response. Oh, and Ryan Community Center on Fullerton is having diaper bank today for families who need help. Ryan stiffened slightly. We're okay, but thanks. Mrs. Petrovich's eyes, cloudy with cataracts but sharp with wisdom, studied him. No shame in community helping each other. My husband God, rest him, always said pride makes a poor blanket in winter. Ryan nodded non-committally and headed out, the morning air sharp in his lungs. The garage was a 20-minute walk away, a small independent operation tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Mike was already there, coffee in hand, standing beside a Subaru with its hood up. Customer says the transmission's slipping between second and third. Wants it fixed cheap or he's junking it. Mike handed him a coffee. Told him you were the best transmission guy in the city. By mid-afternoon, Ryan had the transmission disassembled on a workbench. The problem identified: a worn synchronizer and damaged shift fork. Mike called the customer with the estimate for parts, receiving reluctant approval to proceed. It would take another day to complete the job. That's 2 days' work for you, Mike said. 400 total, not bad. $400, a sixth of what he needed just to catch up on rent, nothing for the coming month. Ryan nodded anyway, grateful for anything. I'll finish it tomorrow. Walking home, Ryan passed the community center Mrs. Petrovich had mentioned. A modest sign outside announced Family Resource Day, Diapers Formula Job Resources. He hesitated, the memory of last night's checkout line still fresh. His hand closed around the remaining coins in his pocket, the ones that hadn't been enough. I fix things that are broken. It's what I do. But I'm not broken, just bent. The thought came unbidden, a reminder to himself. He'd rebuilt his life after Sarah's death, learned to be both mother and father to Lily. He could rebuild again. Before he could change his mind, Ryan walked up the steps and into the community center. The main hall was set up with various tables: diaper bank, food pantry, job resources, healthcare information. Families moving between stations, volunteers directing traffic with cheerful efficiency. First time a volunteer approached with the clipboard, we just need some basic information to get you registered. Ryan tensed. Just looking for now. No pressure, the volunteer smiled. Feel free to look around. The job board has some good leads this week. Ryan nodded his thanks and moved toward the job board, scanning the postings. Warehouse work, janitorial services, retail. Nothing that paid enough to make a difference. He was about to leave when a glossy brochure caught his eye. Baby First Industries, fleet maintenance positions available. He picked it up, reading the details. Baby First Industries, a major manufacturer and distributor of baby products headquartered right here in Pittsburgh. They were seeking experienced mechanics for their delivery fleet, full benefits, competitive salary, regular hours. They're a good company. Ryan turned to find an older gentleman beside him, gray-haired and weathered, but with kind eyes. You know them, ain't you? Ryan asked. Worked in their warehouse for 15 years before retiring. They treat people right. CEO's a woman who built it from nothing, Sophia Kingsley. Tough, but fair. Ryan tucked the brochure into his jacket pocket. Thanks for the info. As he turned to leave, movement near the diaper distribution table caught his attention. A woman was speaking with the volunteers, her back to him, but something about her posture seemed familiar. She turned slightly and Ryan froze. It was her, the woman from the store. She wore a simple black pantsuit, now her blonde hair pulled back in the same twist. And she wasn't in line for supplies. She was clearly directing the operation, checking inventory lists and speaking with volunteers. One of them referred to her as Miss Kingsley. The connection clicked. Sophia Kingsley, CEO of Baby First Industries. The woman who had paid for his diapers was the same woman whose company was hiring fleet mechanics. Before Ryan could process this coincidence, Sophia looked up and their eyes met across the room. Recognition flickered in her expression, followed by something unreadable. She excused herself from the volunteers and walked toward him with purposeful steps. We meet again, she said, her voice carrying the same calm certainty as the night before. I didn't expect to see you here. Neither did I, Ryan replied. I was just checking the job board. Sophia nodded her gaze, taking in his work clothes, the grease still embedded under his fingernails despite his thorough scrubbing. You're a mechanic. It wasn't a question, but Ryan answered anyway. Yes, 15 years experience. Military trained, specialized in helicopter maintenance before transitioning to automotive. Something shifted in Sophia's expression, interest perhaps. Our fleet services department is hiring. The brochure probably doesn't mention that we offer on-site childcare for employees. Ryan's heart rate picked up. On-site childcare would save him Mrs. Petrovich's fee, not to mention the convenience. But suspicion quickly tempered his hope. Was this charity in another form? I don't need special consideration, he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Good, because I don't give it. Sophia's response was crisp, almost challenging. What I need is someone who can keep our delivery vans running without charging us a fortune in parts markup. What you need, I suspect, is steady work with benefits. This isn't charity, it's business. The echo of his earlier thoughts was disconcerting. Ryan studied her face, looking for signs of pity or condescension, finding none. Just clear-eyed assessment and perhaps a hint of impatience. I can start immediately, he said finally. Monday, 8 a.m. Sophia reached into her pocket and handed him a business card. Human Resources, 4th floor. Ask for Martin. I'll let him know you're coming. She paused, then added, Your name, Ryan Morgan. Something flickered across her face, a moment of stillness, almost like recognition, though they'd never formally introduced themselves. But it passed so quickly, Ryan thought he might have imagined it. Morgan, she repeated. I'll make the call. With that, she turned and walked back to the volunteer table, her posture straight, her movements economical. Ryan stood for a moment longer, the business card solid between his fingers. Monday, 8 a.m., 4 days away. He needed to find someone to watch Lily until he could arrange the on-site childcare. As he left the community center, Ryan's mind raced with logistics. He still had the transmission job tomorrow and the timing belt on Saturday. That was $550 total, not enough for rent, but maybe enough to negotiate a payment plan with the landlord. If this job at Baby First came through, if the salary was what the brochure suggested, if the childcare worked out, maybe, just maybe, they could stay afloat. Back at the apartment, Ryan collected Lily from Mrs. Petrovich, deflecting her questions about the community center with vague responses. Once upstairs, he sat Lily on the floor with her few toys while he called the landlord, Mr. Diaz. I can have 500 by Monday, and if this new job works out, I can be caught up by the end of the month, Ryan explained, pacing the small living room. Morgan, I've got bills too. Mr. Diaz sounded tired. You're a good tenant, quiet, keep the place clean, but 3 months is too long. I know. I'm asking for one more chance. I've never been this far behind before. There was a long pause. 1 month, You get current by November 1st, or I have to proceed with the eviction. I'm sorry, but that's my best offer. I understand, thank you. Ryan ended the call and sank onto the couch. Lily crawled over, pulling herself up on his knee, her small face serious as she studied his expression. Da, she questioned her version of Dad, still forming in her developing speech. Ryan lifted her onto his lap, breathing in her baby-sweet scent. It's okay, Lily Pad. Dad's going to fix this. He touched her dark curls so like Sarah's. I promise. Monday morning arrived with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Ryan dressed in his cleanest jeans and a button-down shirt he'd ironed the night before, not quite business attire, but the best he had. Mrs. Petrovich agreed to watch Lily until he could arrange the on-site childcare, waving away his concerns about timing. You go make good impression, she insisted. Lily and I will be fine. The Baby First Industries headquarters occupied a renovated factory building near the river, its brick exterior preserved but modernized with large windows and a glass entrance. The lobby featured photographs of babies from different eras alongside the evolution of the company's products from simple cloth diapers in the 1990s to the high-tech eco-friendly versions of today. Ryan approached the security desk, suddenly conscious of his worn boots and calloused hands. Ryan Morgan for Human Resources. I have an appointment with Martin. The security guard checked a list and nodded. 4th floor. They're expecting you. The elevator opened directly into a reception area where a young woman with a bright smile greeted him. Martin, a tall man with a receding hairline and wire-rimmed glasses, soon emerged. Mr. Morgan, I'm Martin Feldman, HR Director. Please come back to my office. Martin led him to a small office and gestured for Ryan to sit. Ms. Kingsley mentioned you're an experienced mechanic with military background, helicopter maintenance in the Army. Yes, sir, 8 years active duty, specialized in Apache helicopters. After discharge, I've been doing automotive work, everything from basic maintenance to complete rebuilds. Any experience with fleet management or multiple vehicle coordination? In the military, yes, I was responsible for maintenance scheduling for a unit of 12 helicopters, ensuring maximum operational readiness while coordinating with mission requirements. The interview continued for 15 minutes, covering Ryan's technical expertise and availability. Martin seemed increasingly impressed, his initial skepticism fading. Well, your qualifications are excellent for the mechanical aspects, Martin said finally. The position is in our fleet services department, maintaining our delivery vehicles, scheduling, preventive maintenance, some parts inventory management. Starting salary is $24 an hour with full benefits after 90 days, including the on-site childcare Ms. Kingsley mentioned. $24 better than Ryan had expected. He maintained his composure, but inside calculations raced. That would mean almost $1,000 a month toward debt repayment. When could I start? Ryan asked. Tomorrow if you're available. We've been short-handed since Jerry retired last month. Martin slid a packet across the desk. Standard paperwork, tax forms, direct deposit information, emergency contacts. Bring these completed tomorrow. Report to the fleet garage at 8 a.m. east side of the building. Tom Reeves is the supervisor. As Ryan left the HR office, his sense of accomplishment was tinged with discomfort. He walked toward the elevator, the paperwork clutched perhaps too tightly in his hand. The doors opened and Ryan froze. Sophia Kingsley stood inside, engaged in conversation with another executive. She looked up as the doors opened, her expression shifting subtly when she recognized him. Mr. Morgan, she acknowledged with a slight nod. How did the interview go? Ryan stepped into the elevator, acutely aware of the other executive's curious glance between them. Well, thank you. I start tomorrow. Excellent. Tom runs a tight ship in fleet services, but he's fair. Sophia turned to her companion. Marcus, this is Ryan Morgan, our new fleet mechanic. Ryan Marcus, Reynolds Operations Director. Marcus offered a firm handshake, his assessment almost palpable. Fleet services, huh? We've been having issues with the Southern route vehicles, transmission problems. I specialize in transmissions, Ryan replied, matching the man's direct gaze. Good to know. Marcus's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The elevator reached the lobby and he exited first with a nod to Sophia. I'll have those projections by 3. As Ryan moved to follow, Sophia's voice stopped him. Mr. Morgan, a moment. He turned, finding himself alone in the elevator with her as the doors closed again. She pressed the button for the top floor. I want to be clear about something, she said, her voice matter of fact. You were hired because of your qualifications, not because of our previous encounters. I don't do charity in my business. It's bad for everyone involved. Ryan studied her, trying to reconcile this corporate executive with the woman who had bought diapers for a stranger. Then why mention me to HR at all? Because good mechanics are hard to find, and I recognized an opportunity. The elevator stopped at the top floor, but Sophia made no move to exit. My personal involvement ends here. Your success or failure will be entirely your own. The directness was refreshing, even if Ryan wasn't entirely convinced. I appreciate the clarity. Sophia nodded once, then stepped out of the elevator. Before the doors closed, she added, the child care center opens at 7:30. Anna Martinez is the director. She'll help you get your daughter settled. Back at the apartment, Ryan completed the HR paperwork at the kitchen counter while Lily napped. When he reached the emergency contact section, his pen hovered uncertainly. Finally, he wrote Mrs. Petrovich's name and number, making a mental note to ask her permission. That evening, Ryan bathed Lily and dressed her in clean pajamas, setting aside her best outfit for tomorrow. He laid out his own clothes, work pants, and a button-down that he'd wear until he could figure out the dress code in the fleet garage. Everything needed to be perfect for their first day. Morning arrived with a mix of nerves and determination. Ryan dressed Lily with extra care, packed her diaper bag with the remaining supplies from the store, and headed out earlier than necessary. They arrived at Baby First Industries by 7:15, Ryan navigating to the child care center on the ground floor. The space was bright and cheerful with colorful murals and play areas divided by age group. A middle-aged woman with a warm smile approached them. You must be Mr. Morgan and Lily. I'm Anna Martinez, the center director. Ms. Kingsley mentioned you'd be starting today. Of course she did, Ryan thought, but kept his expression neutral. Yes, I'm starting in fleet services. This is Lily. She's 18 months. Anna crouched to Lily's level, speaking softly. Hello, Lily. Would you like to see our toys? She looked up at Ryan. We have a few forms for you to complete, and I'll need to know her schedule, any allergies, comfort items, nap routines. Ryan shifted Lily in his arms, her small body already tensing at the unfamiliar surroundings. She usually stays with our neighbor, Mrs. Petrovich. This will be her first time in a child care setting. Anna's expression softened with understanding. The first day is always the hardest on parents. I promise we'll take good care of her. You are welcome to call and check on her anytime. When the time came to leave her, Lily's face crumpled, her arms clinging to his neck with surprising strength. It's okay, Lily Pad, he murmured against her hair. Dad will be back soon. You're going to have fun here. One of the caregivers approached with a stuffed elephant, engaging Lily's attention just enough for Ryan to make his exit. The sound of her cries followed him down the hallway, each just like a physical blow. He nearly turned back twice, reminding himself that this was for her. All of it was for her. The fleet garage was located in a separate building, connected to the main facility by a covered walkway. The space was larger than Ryan expected, a professional operation with multiple bays, hydraulic lifts, diagnostic equipment, and a parts department. A dozen delivery vans in various states of repair filled the space, most bearing the Baby First logo of a stylized baby handprint. You, Morgan? A heavy-set man in his 50s approached, wiping his hands on a shop rag. Tom Reeves. Heard you're Army good with transmissions. Yes, sir. 8 years active duty, specialized in helicopter maintenance, but I've been doing automotive work since discharge. Tom grunted, neither impressed nor unimpressed. Military training's good. Attention to detail. Follow me. He led Ryan through the garage, outlining operations and expectations. Baby first maintained a fleet of 30 delivery vans serving the tri-state area, plus executive vehicles and special equipment. Ryan would start with basic maintenance and work up to more complex repairs as he proved himself. Pay attention to parts usage, Tom emphasized. Corporate's been on my ass about costs. If something can be rebuilt instead of replaced, that's what we do. By mid-morning, Ryan had completed his first van and moved on to a second with similar maintenance needs. The routine was comforting, the steady rhythm of mechanical work, grounding him after the emotional turmoil of leaving Lily. During the lunch break, Ryan went to check on Lily. He found her in the toddler room, sitting in a caregiver's lap while listening to a story. Her eyes lit up when she saw him, her little legs pumping as she scrambled toward him. Da-da! Ryan scooped her up the knot in his chest, loosening at her evident well-being. Hey, Lilypad, are you having fun? The caregiver approached. She had a rough start, but settled in after about an hour. She's been playing well with the blocks and enjoyed story time. Relief washed over Ryan. Thank you for taking good care of her. That evening, as Ryan prepared dinner, a knock at the apartment door startled him. Visitors were rare, especially unannounced ones. He wiped his hands and opened the door to find an unfamiliar man in his 60s standing there impeccably dressed in a golf shirt and pressed khakis, his silver hair neatly combed. Ryan Morgan. The man's voice carried the slight drawl of the South. Yes. Ryan tensed, wondering if this was somehow related to the eviction. I'm James Whitfield, Sarah's father. Ryan's breath caught. His father-in-law, the man who had blamed him for Sarah's death, who had attended the funeral but spoken barely 10 words to him, who had sent Christmas gifts for Lily but never visited. Mr. Whitfield. Ryan stepped back, opening the door wider. This is unexpected. James entered the apartment, his gaze sweeping the modest space with barely concealed judgment. I've been trying to reach you. Your number changed. After Sarah died, Ryan confirmed. There were too many bill collectors calling. I can give you the new one. James nodded stiffly, his attention caught by Lily, who had toddled into the room at the sound of voices. She regarded the stranger with curious eyes, one hand clutching her stuffed rabbit. She's grown, James said, his voice softening slightly. Looks just like her mother. She does, Ryan agreed, the familiar ache of Sarah's absence momentarily sharper. Lily approached, cautiously studying James with the serious expression she reserved for new people. She offered him her rabbit, a gesture of toddler goodwill that seemed to catch him off guard. Thank you, he said, accepting the toy with unexpected gentleness. Ryan waited. James hadn't come all the way from Florida for a social call. There was a purpose to this visit. I received a call from your landlord, James finally said. Mr. Diaz, he's concerned about your living situation. Anger flashed through Ryan. He had no right to contact you. He found my number in Sarah's old emergency contact information. He's worried about Lily. We're fine, Ryan said firmly. I started a new job. Good paid benefits, on-site childcare. I've worked out a payment plan with Diaz. James studied him with skepticism. This place isn't suitable for a child, Ryan. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, no elevator. The neighborhood isn't safe. It's what we can afford right now. Ryan replied, struggling to keep his tone level. And the neighborhood is fine. Mrs. Petrovich downstairs watches out for us. I have a proposal. James leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees. Come to Florida. I have a guest house on my property, 2 bedrooms, plenty of space for you both. I can help you find work. Lily would have a yard to play in, good schools when the time comes. The offer hung in the air, unexpected and complicated. Ryan looked at Lily now, sitting on the floor with a picture book, oblivious to the life-altering conversation happening above her head. I appreciate the offer, Som, Ryan said carefully. But our life is here. I just started this job. It has real potential. Lily is settling into her routine. James's expression hardened. Is your pride worth more than her well-being? Look around, Ryan. This is no place for my granddaughter. The accusation stung, cutting close to Ryan's own doubts. This is temporary. Things are getting better. Are they? Or are you one emergency away from disaster? James stood, moving to the kitchen, where the eviction notice still hung on the refrigerator. 3 months behind on rent. What happens next month, or when she needs something you can't afford? Ryan felt a surge of the same raw emotion he'd experienced at the checkout counter. Not quite anger, not quite shame, but a wounded dignity that had been poked once too often. I've taken care of her for 2 years on my own, he said, his voice low but intense. I've never missed a meal, never missed a doctor's appointment, never left her needs unmet. Not once, Vero. At what cost? James challenged. Living in poverty, working yourself to exhaustion, Sarah would have wanted better for both of you. The mention of Sarah's name like a weapon was the final straw. Ryan stood his full height several inches above his father-in-law's. Don't tell me what Sarah would have wanted, he said, each word precise and controlled. She believed in me. She knew I would take care of our daughter no matter what it took. James held his gaze for a long moment, then looked away first. Think about my offer. It stands whether you like me or not. This isn't about us, it's about Lily. He moved to the door, pausing to place a business card on the side table. My number in case you change your mind. I'm staying at the Marriott downtown until Sunday. After James left, Ryan stood motionless in the center of the room, the confrontation replaying in his mind. Lily sensed his distress approaching to tug at his pant leg with a questioning expression. It's okay, Lily Pad, he assured her, lifting her into his arms. Grandpa just came to say hello. But as he finished preparing their dinner, James's words echoed uncomfortably. One emergency away from disaster. Wasn't that exactly what he'd been for the past 2 years? The eviction notice was tangible proof of their precarious situation. That evening, as Ryan prepared dinner, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Sophia Kingsley. Tom mentioned you diagnosed an electrical issue in van 12 that 3 other mechanics missed. I'd like to discuss a special project with you. Monday, 8 a.m. my office. Ryan stared at the message, surprised by both its content and its source. How had she gotten his personal number? Why was the CEO of Baby First Industries texting him directly about a van repair? He typed a response. I'll be there. Thank you for the opportunity. Monday morning, Ryan dropped Lily at the childcare center earlier than usual, allowing time to prepare for his meeting with Sophia. Anna greeted them warmly, commenting on how well Lily had adjusted in just 1 week. She's a resilient little one, Anna observed as Lily immediately joined the other early arrivals at the block station. You've done a wonderful job with her. The simple validation lifted Ryan's spirits after the unsettling visit from James. Thank you, that means a lot. Instead of heading to the garage, Ryan took the elevator to the top floor where Sophia's office was located. The executive suite was intimidating, all glass and brushed steel, with views of the Pittsburgh skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. A receptionist greeted him and led him to Sophia's corner office. Sophia sat behind a modernist desk, reviewing documents on a tablet. She looked up as he entered, setting the device aside. Mr. Morgan, thank you for coming. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Please sit. Ryan sat acutely aware of his work clothes in this rarefied environment. Sophia seemed to notice his discomfort. I apologize for the formal setting. I thought about meeting in the garage, but this conversation requires some privacy. She opened a folder on her desk, revealing photographs of the electrical system Ryan had diagnosed in van 12. Tom tells me you found a wiring modification that shouldn't have been there. Can you explain what you saw? Ryan leaned forward, examining the photos. The main electrical harness had been altered to bypass the emissions control system. It's a common modification in some aftermarket shops, improves fuel efficiency, but violates EPA regulations. I restored it to factory specifications. And you documented this in the service log. Yes, ma'am, I included before and after photos and noted that it appeared to be an intentional modification, not damage. Sophia nodded, her expression unreadable. You're probably wondering why the CEO is concerned with a single van repair. The thought had crossed my mind, Ryan admitted. We're conducting an internal investigation, Sophia explained. Several of our vans have failed emissions tests recently despite regular maintenance. Your discovery suggests someone in our fleet services department may be making unauthorized modifications. The implication was clear. A mechanic, perhaps multiple mechanics, were tampering with company vehicles. Ryan thought of Marcus Reynolds watching him work on Sophia's car, of Tom's emphasis on cutting costs. I understand the sensitivity of the situation, Ryan said carefully. What do you need from me? I'd like you to inspect the entire fleet, documenting any similar modifications. Discreetly. Sophia leaned forward slightly. This stays between us for now. If there's misconduct, I want solid evidence before taking action. The assignment was unexpected, part mechanic, part investigator. Ryan considered the potential ramifications. If he found evidence implicating his colleagues, he would be the outsider who betrayed them. If he found nothing, would Sophia think he was covering for them? Why me? He asked directly. I've been here less than 2 weeks. There are far more senior mechanics. Sophia's blue eyes met his steadily. Because you noticed what others missed or chose to ignore, and because you documented it properly despite being new. That suggests both skill and integrity. The compliment was delivered matter-of-factly, yet it carried weight coming from her. Ryan nodded slowly. I'll need unrestricted access to all vehicles and service records. and time to conduct thorough inspections without raising suspicion. You'll have it. Tom will be informed that you're conducting a fleet-wide preventive maintenance review, technically true. He doesn't need to know the specific focus. Ryan stood, recognizing the meeting was concluding. I'll start today. How would you like me to report findings? Directly to me, Sophia replied, handing him a card with a private email address. Document everything with photos. And Ryan, she used his first name for the first time. Be careful. If someone is deliberately circumventing environmental regulations, they won't appreciate scrutiny. The warning hung in the air as Ryan left the office, the weight of this new responsibility settling on his shoulders. He took the elevator to the garage level, his mind racing with the implications of what Sophia had shared. As the doors opened, Ryan steeled himself for the day ahead. He had a job to do, not just as a mechanic, but as someone entrusted with uncovering the truth. It was a responsibility he hadn't sought, but one he would fulfill with the same precision and integrity he applied to every task. The garage was already busy, mechanics moving between vehicles with the rhythm of a well-established routine. Tom approached as Ryan clocked in, a clipboard in hand. Morgan, got a special assignment for you from upstairs. Fleet-wide preventive maintenance review. You'll be checking every vehicle over the next 2 weeks, starting with the older models. Ryan nodded, accepting the clipboard. Understood. I'll need access to all service records as well. Already authorized. Computer access has been updated. Tom lowered his voice. Between us, this is probably some corporate efficiency initiative. Kingsley's been on a cost-cutting mission lately. I'll be thorough, Ryan promised, neither confirming nor denying Tom's assumption. He began with the oldest vans in the fleet, establishing a systematic approach that wouldn't attract attention. By lunchtime, he had documented 3 more vehicles with similar modifications to the emission systems. Each one had been serviced multiple times without the alterations being noted or corrected. During his lunch break, Ryan checked on Lily as usual, finding her contentedly playing in the childcare center. The normalcy of her day contrasted sharply with the undercurrents of deception he was uncovering in the garage. As he returned to work, Ryan noticed Marcus Reynolds entering the garage, engaged in conversation with Tom. They spoke in low voices, occasionally glancing in Ryan's direction. The scrutiny was unsettling, but Ryan continued his inspections, meticulously documenting each vehicle's condition. By the end of the day, Ryan had examined 8 vans and found 5 with unauthorized modifications. He compiled his findings into a detailed report, including photographs and service history for each affected vehicle, and sent it to Sophia's private email from a computer in an empty office. The response came quickly. Excellent work. Continue tomorrow. We'll meet again when you've completed the fleet. As Ryan collected Lily from the childcare center, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had stepped into something larger and more complicated than a simple mechanical issue. The modifications were too consistent to be coincidental, too deliberate to be mistakes. Someone was systematically altering company vehicles. The question was why and at whose direction. Heading home on the bus with Lily drowsy against his shoulder, Ryan reflected on the strange path that had led him here. 2 weeks ago, he had been counting pennies for diapers. Now he was conducting a confidential investigation for the CEO of a major corporation. The familiar sight of his apartment building brought him back to reality. The eviction notice still in effect, James's offer still open, the future still uncertain. But for the first time in years, Ryan felt a sense of purpose beyond mere survival. He was solving a problem, using his skills to make a difference, being valued for his expertise rather than pitied for his circumstances. As he unlocked his apartment door, Ryan made a decision. He wouldn't call James. Not yet, anyway. Something was happening here in Pittsburgh. Something that felt like an opportunity rather than a stopgap. He owed it to himself and to Lily to see where this path might lead. Ryan Morgan had always fixed broken things. Now perhaps he was finally fixing his broken life. The rhythmic hum of engines filled the baby-first garage as Ryan moved methodically through his inspection of Van 17, his hands exploring the undercarriage with practiced precision. 1 week into his secret investigation, he had documented 12 vehicles with identical emissions system modifications. The pattern was unmistakable. Someone was deliberately tampering with the fleet to improve fuel economy at the expense of environmental compliance. A shadow fell across the concrete floor beside him. Ryan glanced up to find Marcus Reynolds watching, arms crossed over his expensive suit, a clipboard in one hand. Finding anything interesting under there, Morgan? Ryan slid out from beneath the van, wiping his hands on a shop rag. Just routine maintenance issues. This one needs new rear brake pads. Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze shifting to the open service log on the nearby workbench. Tom says you've been thorough, very thorough, checking systems that aren't typically part of standard maintenance. Military training, Ryan replied, keeping his tone neutral. Better to catch small problems before they become big ones. Admirable, though I wonder if it's the most efficient use of company resources. Marcus tapped his clipboard meaningfully. Fleet operating costs are my department, and I'm noticing our fuel efficiency numbers dropping on the vehicles you've serviced. The implication hung in the air between them, neither man willing to acknowledge it directly. Ryan maintained eye contact, refusing to be intimidated. I restore vehicles to manufacturer specifications. Nothing more, nothing less. Of course, Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just remember, Morgan, you are still in your probationary period. Teamwork is an important part of our evaluation metrics. He turned and walked away, expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against concrete. Ryan watched him go, the warning unmistakable. Whoever was behind the modifications had influence, and they were now aware of his actions. Ryan finished documenting the van and closed the service log, his thoughts racing. He needed to tell Sophia about this encounter, but discreetly. The risk had just escalated from professional to personal. His new job, his lifeline for Lily, was now potentially in jeopardy. During his lunch break, Ryan headed to the childcare center as usual. The routine had become the highlight of his day, 30 minutes of normalcy amid growing tension. He found Lily in the toddler playroom building a tower with colorful blocks alongside another little girl. Da! Lily spotted him and ran over, her small legs pumping with excitement. Ryan scooped her up, inhaling the scent of baby shampoo and Play-Doh that now defined her days. Building towers. Lily pad. Ryan kissed her forehead, grateful for the simple joy of her smile. Anna Martinez approached, clipboard in hand. Mr. Morgan, do you have a minute? I wanted to discuss Lily's progress. They moved to a small conference area while Lily returned to her blocks. Anna's expression was professional but warm. Lily's adjusting wonderfully. She's beginning to form friendships, and her verbal skills are developing rapidly. However, I've noticed she becomes anxious during afternoon pickup time, watching the door, becoming upset if you're even 5 minutes later than usual. Ryan's chest tightened. The investigation had caused him to run late twice last week. I've had some special projects in the garage. I'll make sure to be more consistent. It's not criticism, Anna assured him. It's common for children who've experienced loss. Separation anxiety is normal, especially given your circumstances. Her mother died when she was 6 months old. The words still felt raw even after 2 years. I didn't think she'd remember enough to be affected. Children internalize emotional patterns even before they have conscious memories. Consistency helps them feel secure. Anna hesitated, then continued more gently. Ms. Kingsley mentioned Lily's mother passed away. We have a child psychologist who consults with the center once a week. She could observe Lily, offer suggestions if you're interested. Ryan stiffened slightly. Sophia had discussed his personal situation with the childcare director. The boundary between professional and personal support was becoming increasingly blurred. I'll think about it, he replied, noncommittal. Thank you for the suggestion. As Ryan walked back to the garage, his phone vibrated with a text from Sophia. Report received. Progress impressive. Need update in person. My office 4 p.m. today. He replied with a simple confirmation, pocketing the phone as he entered the garage. Tom was waiting for him, a concerned expression on his weathered face. Reynolds was asking about your inspection routine, Tom said quietly, falling into step beside Ryan. Said the board is concerned about rising maintenance fees. Just doing what you asked, thorough preventive maintenance. Tom nodded, but his eyes conveyed worry. Watch yourself, Morgan. Marcus has been pushing for outsourced fleet maintenance for months. Cheaper on paper, though we both know the quality suffers. He'd love an excuse to prove we're inefficient. The warning added another layer to Ryan's growing suspicions. If Marcus wanted to outsource fleet maintenance, sabotaging the current operation would serve his purposes. But tampering with emission systems seemed an odd approach unless there was more to it than simple cost-cutting. At 4 p.m. sharp, Ryan arrived at Sophia's office, having changed from his work coveralls into the clean shirt he kept in his locker for emergencies. The executive floor was quieter now, most of the staff already gone for the day. Sophia stood by the window gazing out at the Pittsburgh skyline as the late afternoon sun painted the glass buildings in gold. She turned as Ryan entered, her expression grave. Close the door. She gestured to a sitting area rather than her desk, creating a less formal atmosphere. Your reports are concerning. 12 vehicles with identical, unauthorized modifications suggest a systematic effort, not random corner cutting. Ryan nodded, sitting across from her. Marcus Reynolds confronted me today. He knows I'm restoring the emission systems and seemed unhappy about it. Sophia's eyes narrowed. What exactly did he say? Ryan recounted the conversation verbatim, including the veiled threat about his probationary status. Sophia listened intently, her fingers absently turning a small silver locket. She wore a gesture Ryan had noticed before when she was thinking deeply. This is worse than I thought. She set the locket down, leaning forward. The EPA has been investigating companies in our sector for emissions violations. 3 of our competitors have been fined millions in the past year. If Baby First is found to be systematically violating regulations, the penalties could be devastating. Why would Marcus risk that? Tom mentioned he's been pushing to outsource fleet maintenance. Marcus has connections to Value Fleet Services, an outsourcing company that's been aggressively pursuing our business. The board rejected his proposal 6 months ago. Sophia's voice hardened. If our in-house maintenance department caused a major scandal, the board might reconsider. The pieces clicked into place for Ryan. And if the modifications were discovered during an EPA inspection, the blame would fall on the garage team, not management. Precisely. Sophia stood, pacing slightly. I need conclusive evidence before I can take this to the board. How many more vehicles need inspection? 8. I can finish by Friday if I work overtime. Sophia nodded. Do it. But be careful. If Marcus suspects you're documenting his scheme, he might escalate. In the meantime, I'll do some digging into his connection with Value Fleet. As Ryan turned to leave, Sophia called after him. Ryan, I've authorized overtime pay and arranged extended hours at the child care center. Lily won't have to suffer for this. The thoughtfulness caught him off guard. Thank you. Walking back toward the garage, Ryan felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had stumbled into corporate intrigue far beyond anything he'd anticipated when accepting this job. Now he was potentially making an enemy of a powerful executive who could easily terminate his employment. People like you think money solves everything. People like me know it doesn't solve anything that matters. The thought surfaced unbidden, the fundamental divide between his world and the corporate environment he now navigated. The next morning, Ryan arrived early, determined to make progress before the other mechanics. He had completed 2 more inspections when Tom approached, his expression unusually tense. Morgan got a call from Marcus's office. Your daughter's sick. Child care center needs you right away. Ryan's heart jumped into his throat. He dropped his tools and ran, not bothering to clean up or change. The child care center was a 3-minute sprint across the complex, each second stretching like an hour in his mind. He burst through the doors, scanning frantically for Lily. The center seemed calm, children playing, staff moving about normally. No signs of an emergency. Ryan spotted Anna at her desk and rushed over. Where's Lily? I was told she's sick. Anna looked up in confusion. Lily? She's fine in the toddler room with Ms. Chen. No one called about her being ill. Relief flooded Ryan's system, immediately followed by suspicion. He thanked Anna and headed to the toddler room, where he found Lily happily arranging plastic farm animals. She squealed with delight at his unexpected appearance, completely healthy. Ryan hugged her tightly, his pulse still racing. Daddy just came to check on you, Lily Pad. Everything's okay. After ensuring Lily was truly fine, Ryan returned to the garage with a growing sense of unease. The false emergency could only have been a distraction. He quickened his pace, suddenly certain of what he would find. The service bay where he'd been working was empty. Van 22, which he'd been documenting with extensive emissions modifications, was gone. His tools remained scattered where he'd dropped them, but his notebook with handwritten observations was missing. Looking for this, Marcus Reynolds stepped from behind a support column holding Ryan's notebook. Fascinating reading. You've been very thorough in your documentation. Ryan kept his voice level despite the anger building in his chest. That's company property. Part of my assigned maintenance review. Is it because it seems more like evidence gathering? Marcus flipped through the pages. Detailed notes on emissions, system modifications, timestamps, service histories, almost as if you were building a case. He closed the notebook with a snap. Question is for whom? I report to Tom Reeves. Tom doesn't ask for this level of documentation, so I have to wonder who you're really working for. Marcus stepped closer. Let me be direct, Morgan. You're a single father with a precarious financial situation. I respect your desire to provide for your daughter, but you're involving yourself in matters beyond your understanding. Ryan stood his ground. I understand the difference between right and wrong. Someone is deliberately violating environmental regulations, putting this company at risk. Marcus laughed softly. How noble. Let me offer an alternative perspective. Baby First Industries employs over 500 people in this region alone. Thousands more rely on our supply chain. If fuel costs rise 15% due to strict adherence to increasingly stringent EPA standards, those jobs become vulnerable. So breaking the law is justified if it's good for business. The law is rarely black and white, Morgan. Neither is business. Marcus held out the notebook. I'm willing to forget this overstepping of your role. Return to doing the job you were hired for, fixing vehicles, not investigating your superiors, and your position here remains secure. Continue down this path, and I can't guarantee your future with the company. The threat hung in the air between them. Ryan thought of Lily, of the eviction notice still taped to his refrigerator, of James's offer waiting in Florida. One wrong move could collapse everything he was building. I need that notebook to complete my assign and maintenance review, Ryan said, finally holding out his hand. Marcus's expression hardened. He placed the notebook in Ryan's palm with deliberate slowness. I hope you make the right choice, Morgan, for your daughter's sake. As Marcus walked away, Ryan opened the notebook. Several pages had been torn out, the most damning documentation gone. The message couldn't have been clearer. Evidence could disappear, and so could he. That evening, Ryan picked up Lily from childcare with his mind still churning. The false emergency about her health had crossed a line. Marcus wasn't just threatening his job, now he was using Lily as leverage. The realization lit a fire in Ryan's chest that no amount of practical reasoning could extinguish. At home, Ryan bathed Lily and tucked her into bed, going through their nightly routine with extra attention. Once she was asleep, he sat at the kitchen counter with his remaining documentation and began reconstructing his notes from memory, filling in the gaps left by the missing pages. A knock at the door startled him. It was nearly 9 p.m., too late for casual visitors. Ryan approached cautiously, checking the peephole before opening the door with surprise. Sophia Kingsley stood in the hallway, dressed in casual clothes, jeans, and a simple sweater that looked strangely incongruous with his mental image of her. In her arms was a large paper bag. May I come in? Her voice was quieter than usual, conscious of the late hour. Ryan stepped aside, acutely aware of his modest apartment through her eyes. Sophia entered, taking in the space with a quick glance that revealed nothing of her thoughts. I apologize for coming unannounced. I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. Ryan checked his phone, finding it dead. In the chaos of the day, he'd forgotten to charge it. Battery died. It's been a complicated day. I know. Marcus called an emergency meeting with the board's executive committee this afternoon. He's recommending immediate outsourcing of fleet maintenance and your termination. Sophia set the paper bag on the counter. I brought dinner. I thought you might not have had time to eat. The incongruity of the CEO of Baby First Industries bringing takeout to his apartment momentarily left Ryan speechless. The gesture was so unexpectedly personal that it disrupted his understanding of their relationship. Thank you. He cleared his throat. I take it the meeting didn't go well? It's complicated, then. The committee didn't approve his recommendation, but they've asked for a full review of fleet operations. Marcus presented selective maintenance records showing increased costs since you started. Sophia noticed the reconstructed notes on the counter. What happened? Ryan explained the false emergency and the confrontation with Marcus, including the missing notebook pages. Sophia's expression darkened as he spoke, her hands tightening into fists, then deliberately relaxing. Using your daughter as a manipulation tactic is unconscionable. Her voice carried a quiet intensity that Ryan hadn't heard before. This has gone beyond corporate politics. It's become personal. It was personal the moment he threatened my job. Ryan replied, unpacking the food containers, Italian pasta from what appeared to be an upscale restaurant. I have 2 weeks of savings. If I lose this position, Lily and I lose everything. Sophia was quiet for a moment, seeming to debate something internally. There's something you should know about Marcus. 3 years ago, he was involved in a similar situation at TriStar Manufacturing. They were fined heavily for environmental violations, but the executives avoided prosecution by blaming mid-level managers. Marcus emerged unscathed and joined us shortly after. You hired him knowing this history. The board hired him. I opposed it but was outvoted. Sophia's eyes met his. This isn't the first time we've disagreed on fundamental values. Ryan considered this as he divided the pasta onto two plates. The revelation painted Sophia in a different light, not just a corporate executive, but someone potentially fighting her own battles within the system. What's our next move? He asked, sliding a plate toward her and taking a seat at the counter. Sophia accepted the plate, the casual sharing of food creating an unexpected intimacy. We need the remaining vehicle inspections completed, but I'm concerned about your safety now that Marcus has shown his hand. I'm thinking of bringing in external auditors. That would take too long. He'd have time to cover his tracks. Ryan shook his head. I can finish the inspections if I have protection, official authorization that Marcus can't override. Sophia considered this twirling pasta thoughtfully. I could issue an executive directive making your review part of our EPA compliance program. It would give you temporary authority reporting directly to me, bypassing operations entirely. Would the board support that? They'd have to. Our corporate charter gives me unilateral authority on compliance matters. A small, determined smile touched her lips. Marcus isn't the only one who knows how to use the system. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, the shared purpose creating an unexpected alliance. Ryan found himself studying Sophia when she wasn't looking, the way her professional demeanor had softened. In this setting, how different she seemed outside the corporate environment. Can I ask you something personal? The question slipped out before Ryan could reconsider. Sophia looked up, surprised but not defensive. You can ask. That day at the supermarket, why did you help me, really? The question hung between them, more significant than it might appear on the surface. Sophia set down her fork, her fingers unconsciously moving to the silver locket she wore. I told you the truth that night. I know what it's like to go without. She hesitated, then continued more quietly. After my parents died, I spent 3 years in foster care before being adopted. Some homes were better than others. The worst ones taught me what it feels like when basic dignity is stripped away. Ryan hadn't expected such a direct answer. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. No, it's a fair question. Sophia's gaze was steady. When I saw you counting those coins, what struck me wasn't your financial situation. It was the way you stood, shoulders back, chin up, determined to maintain your dignity even when the world was telling you that you didn't deserve it. I recognized that stance. The honesty of her answer created a moment of genuine connection between them. Not CEO and employee, not wealthy and struggling, just two people who understood what it meant to fight for their place in the world. A small sound from the bedroom interrupted the moment. Lily's voice called out sleepily. Dada. Ryan excused himself and went to check on her. She had kicked off her blanket and was sitting up disoriented. It's okay, Lily Pad. Daddy's here. Go back to sleep. He tucked her in again, stroking her dark curls until her eyes fluttered closed. When he returned to the kitchen, Sophia was standing preparing to leave. I should go. It's late and you both need rest. She gathered her coat. I'll have the executive directive on your desk first thing tomorrow. Be careful, Ryan. Document everything but watch your back. At the door, she paused. Thank you for dinner. It's been a long time since I shared a meal that wasn't about business. After she left, Ryan cleaned up his thoughts, churning with the events of the day. The confrontation with Marcus, the unexpected alliance with Sophia, the growing sense that this job had become something far more complicated than he'd anticipated. He checked his reconstructed notes one last time, then plugged in his phone to charge. As the screen lit up, a notification appeared, a voicemail from James Whitfield. Ryan hesitated, then played the message. Ryan, I'm heading back to Florida tomorrow. My offer stands. Think about what's best for Lily long term, not just what your pride can handle right now. Call me if you change your mind. The familiar mix of irritation and doubt surfaced again. Was he making the right choice staying to fight this battle? Or was he risking Lily's security out of stubborn pride? He looked at the kitchen counter where he and Sophia had shared a meal, talked as equals. Something was happening here. something that felt like more than just a job. He wasn't ready to walk away, not when he was finally standing his ground instead of just surviving. Morning brought a new energy to the garage. As promised, an official directive from Sophia's office awaited Ryan authorizing his comprehensive fleet inspection as part of Baby First's EPA compliance program. The document explicitly stated that he would report directly to the CEO for the duration of the review, effectively removing Marcus from the chain of command. Tom read the directive with raised eyebrows. Well, looks like you've got friends in high places, Morgan. Can't say I'm surprised you've got a good eye for detail. He lowered his voice. Between us, the emissions modification started about 8 months ago, right after Marcus joined the company. Never felt right to me, but I was told it came from operations. Why didn't you report it? Tom's weathered face showed a flash of shame. Got a son in college, mortgage underwater since the divorce. Couldn't risk it. He straightened up, professional again. But I'm glad someone's finally addressing it. What do you need from me? With Tom's tacit support, Ryan accelerated his inspection schedule. By Wednesday afternoon, he had documented all but 2 of the remaining vehicles, finding the same pattern of modifications throughout the fleet. The evidence was overwhelming. Someone had systematically altered every delivery van to bypass emissions controls, improving fuel economy while violating federal regulations. Ryan was finishing his report on Van 28 when his phone vibrated with a text from Anna at the childcare center. Lily running fever of 101.2. Please come when you can. This time the emergency was real. Ryan dropped everything and rushed to the childcare center, finding Lily flushed and miserable in the isolation room. Anna had already administered children's fever reducer, but Lily clung to Ryan with unusual lethargy. She was fine at lunch, then started feeling warm during nap time, Anna explained. No other symptoms yet, but she should probably see a doctor if the fever persists. Ryan nodded, gathering Lily's things. I'll take her home. Thank you for calling in right away. Of course. Ms. Kingsley has made it clear that family emergencies take priority. Anna handed him Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit. I hope she feels better soon. The mention of Sophia's policy reminded Ryan of how differently this situation might have played out at another job, one where a single father's need to care for a sick child would be seen as an inconvenience rather than a priority. At home, Ryan settled Lily on the couch with her favorite blanket and cartoons while he called the pediatrician. The earliest appointment was tomorrow morning, but the nurse offered reassurance that a low-grade fever without other symptoms wasn't cause for immediate concern. Ryan sent a brief update to both Tom and Sophia, explaining that he'd be working from home for the rest of the day. Within minutes, Sophia replied, "Family comes first. Take whatever time you need. Can the final inspections wait until Lily is better?" The thoughtfulness of her response contrasted sharply with Marcus's manipulation of Ryan's concern for his daughter. He typed back, "I can complete documentation from home. We'll coordinate with Tom about final inspections when Lily improves." The afternoon passed in a blur of temperature checks, gentle coaxing to drink fluids and cuddles on the couch. By evening, Lily's fever had dropped slightly, but she remained clingy and uncomfortable. Ryan ordered soup deliverer for dinner, not wanting to leave her even long enough to cook. As they ate their soup, Lily nestled against his side. A knock came at the apartment door. Ryan tensed immediately, thinking of Marcus. He settled Lily on the couch and approached cautiously, relieved to see Sophia through the peephole again. She stood in the hallway holding a canvas tote bag. "I heard Lily's sick. I brought some supplies, children's electrolyte drinks, more fever reducer, and soup, though I see you've already handled dinner." Ryan invited her in, touched by the gesture. Lily looked up from the couch, her eyes brightening slightly at the visitor. Sophia approached her with a gentle smile. "Hello, Lily. I'm sorry you're not feeling well." She knelt to the child's eye level, speaking directly to her rather than about her. "When I was little and sick, my mom would bring me special juice to help me feel better. Would you like to try some?" Lily nodded, curious despite her discomfort. Sophia unpacked a colorful bottle of electrolyte solution and poured a small amount into a cup. Ryan watched their interaction with interest. Sophia showed none of the awkwardness many adults displayed with children, instead treating Lily with a natural respect that the toddler clearly responded to. After Lily took a few sips, Sophia turned to Ryan. "I brought the files on the last 2 vans. I thought you might want to complete your documentation while you're home." The thoughtfulness of bringing both child care supplies and work materials struck Ryan forcefully. Sophia had anticipated both his personal and professional needs without being asked. Thank you. He accepted the files, genuinely moved. You didn't have to do all this. I know what it's like to care for a sick child alone. Sophia's expression softened with memory. My adopted sister was much younger. I often took care of her when our parents worked late. This new glimpse into Sophia's background added another layer to Ryan's evolving understanding of her. She wasn't just a successful CEO with a difficult childhood. She was someone who had shouldered responsibilities beyond her years, who understood the weight of caring for others. They spent the next hour in comfortable domesticity, Ryan reviewing the vehicle files at the kitchen counter, while Sophia sat with Lily reading a picture book she'd found on the shelf. The scene felt surreal in its normalcy, as if the corporate hierarchy that separated them had temporarily dissolved. When Lily finally drifted off to sleep on the couch, Sophia helped Ryan carry her to bed. Standing in the doorway of the small bedroom, watching Ryan tuck his daughter in, Sophia's expression held something wistful. "You're a good father," she said softly as they returned to the living room. "Lily is lucky to have you." "I'm doing my best." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion finally catching up to him. "Sometimes I wonder if it's enough. It's all any of us can do." Sophia glanced at her watch. "I should go. Let you get some rest." At the door, she paused. "The board meeting is Friday afternoon. I'll present our findings then. With the evidence you've gathered, Marcus will have a hard time defending these modifications." "What happens after that to the fleet department, I mean?" "That depends on how the board responds. Best case, they authorize a complete overhaul of operations and fleet management." Sophia's expression grew more serious. "Worst case, they look for someone to blame rather than addressing the systemic issues." The implicit warning was clear. Even with Sophia's protection, Ryan's position could be vulnerable if the board decided to scapegoat the maintenance department. "I understand the risk," he said quietly, "but I can't look the other way, not when the right thing to do is so clear." Sophia studied him for a long moment, something like admiration in her eyes. "That's rare, you know. Most people find ways to justify compromise when their security is threatened." "Maybe I'm just stubborn." Ryan smiled slightly. "My wife used to say I had more principles than sense." "She sounds wise." Sophia's hand moved unconsciously to her locket again, a gesture Ryan had noticed happened often when conversations turned personal. "Take care of Lily. I'll handle things at the office until you return." After she left, Ryan finished reviewing the vehicle files, completing his documentation with meticulous attention to detail. The evidence was overwhelming. Every single delivery van in the Baby First fleet had been modified to circumvent emissions controls, saving the company an estimated $80,000 annually in fuel costs, while potentially exposing them to millions in EPA fines. Tomorrow, he would take Lily to the doctor, hopefully get her fever under control, and then return to work for the final inspections. Friday would bring the board meeting and a confrontation that could determine both the company's future and his own. As he prepared for bed, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Thank you for standing up for what's right. Not everyone would take that risk." The simple message carried an emotional weight that caught Ryan off guard. In just 2 weeks, Sophia Kingsley had transformed from a stranger who bought diapers for his daughter to someone whose opinion genuinely mattered to him. Their worlds might be different, but they seemed to understand each other in ways that transcended circumstance. Thursday morning, Lily's fever had broken. The pediatrician confirmed it was likely a minor virus, nothing serious, and cleared her to return to childcare the following day. Ryan kept her home for the day anyway, giving her time to fully recover while he worked remotely, finalizing his reports for tomorrow's board meeting. In the afternoon, his phone rang. Tom from the garage, his voice tense. "Morgan, you need to know something. Marcus came through this morning with 2 guys from Value Fleet. They inspected the vans you haven't restored yet, took a bunch of photos." Ryan's stomach tightened. "They're building a counter-narrative." "Looks that way. And there's more. I overheard them talking about fuel efficiency data. Marcus has been keeping separate records showing the cost savings from the modifications. He's going to argue it was a deliberate efficiency initiative, not an attempt to circumvent regulations." "That's ridiculous. Tampering with emission systems is illegal regardless of the motivation." "I know that and you know that. But the board might see gray areas where we see black and white." Tom's voice lowered further. "Watch your back tomorrow. Morgan, Marcus is gunning for you specifically. Says you're an unqualified hire who's stirring up trouble to curry favor with the CEO. The warning heightened Ryan's awareness of just how precarious his position had become. Thanks for the heads up, Tom. I appreciate you risking your neck. Yeah, well, Tom cleared his throat awkwardly. Some things matter more than job security. My dad worked construction. His whole life died of lung cancer from all the crap he breathed on job sites. These regulations exist for a reason. After ending the call, Ryan texted Sophia with Tom's information. Her response was immediate. Expected this move. Don't worry, compliance isn't negotiable regardless of cost savings. Be ready for a fight tomorrow. Ryan spent the rest of the day with Lily treasuring the simple joy of playing blocks on the living room floor, reading her favorite books, and watching her appetite return at dinner. By bedtime, she was nearly her usual energetic self protesting sleep with her customary determination. One more story, D. Her dark eyes, so like her mother's, pleaded with practiced expertise. One more lily pad, then sleep. Ryan selected another book from their small collection, acutely aware that tomorrow might determine whether they could remain in this apartment, this city, this life they were building. After Lily finally drifted off, Ryan sat at the kitchen counter reviewing his documentation one last time. The evidence was irrefutable from a technical standpoint, but Marcus would be appealing to the board's business instincts, presenting the modifications as cost-saving innovations rather than regulatory violations. In this battle between values and value, Ryan wasn't certain which would prevail. Corporate America had a long history of prioritizing profits over principles when the choice became explicit. Friday morning arrived with steel gray skies and a cold drizzle that matched Ryan's mood. He dropped a fully recovered Lily at the childcare center, then headed to the garage for his final inspections before the 2 p.m. board meeting. The atmosphere in the fleet department was tense mechanics working quietly with occasional glances toward Ryan. Word had clearly spread about today's confrontation. Tom met him at his workstation, voice low. Marcus has been here twice already checking records. He's got the value fleet guys setting up in the conference room. Looks like a full presentation. Ryan nodded unsurprised. What time? They're scheduled for 1:30 right before you and Kingsley. Tom handed him a folder. Here's something that might help. Maintenance records from before the modifications started showing our baseline fuel efficiency. They'll try to claim the current numbers are normal. These prove otherwise. The support from Tom was unexpected, but welcome. Thanks. This could be crucial. Ryan spent the morning completing his final inspections, documenting the last 2 vans in the fleet. As expected, both showed identical modifications to their emission systems. By noon, his report was complete, 30 delivery vans, all tampered with, in violation of EPA regulations, all serviced repeatedly, without the modifications being corrected or reported. At 12:30, Ryan headed to the locker room to change into the clean shirt and tie he'd brought for the meeting. As he buttoned his shirt, the door swung open, and Marcus entered alone. Morgan. Marcus leaned against the lockers, his tailored suit a stark contrast to Ryan's modest attire. I thought we might have a word before the meeting. Ryan continued dressing, maintaining a calm exterior despite his wariness. I need to prepare my presentation. About that, Marcus's tone was conversational, almost friendly. I've been reviewing your employment file. Impressive military record. Excellent technical skills. You could have a solid future here. Is there a point to this conversation? Your daughter seems to be thriving in our childcare program. Anna speaks highly of her development. Marcus straightened his already perfect tie. It would be unfortunate if your family situation became unstable again. The indirect threat sent a chill through Ryan's spine, but he kept his expression neutral. Are you threatening my daughter now? Not at all. I'm expressing concern for her welfare. Marcus smiled thinly. The board values loyalty, Ryan. Present your findings if you must, but perhaps consider emphasizing that these modifications were part of an efficiency initiative that simply wasn't properly documented. A misunderstanding rather than malfeasance. The truth isn't negotiable, Ryan replied, meeting Marcus's gaze directly. Not for me. Marcus's smile faded. Principles are a luxury few can afford. I thought a man in your position would understand that better than most. That's where you're wrong. Ryan finished knotting his tie, standing at his full height. Principles aren't a luxury. They're all some of us have left when everything else is taken away. The philosophical divide between them couldn't have been clearer. Marcus saw ethics as conditional, dependent on circumstance, while Ryan viewed them as foundational, especially when tested by adversity. "You're making a mistake," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "One your daughter will pay for." "No." Ryan stepped closer, his voice low but intense. "The mistake was thinking you could intimidate me by threatening my family. I rebuilt helicopter engines in combat zones with mortars falling around me. You don't scare me, Reynolds." For a moment, Marcus seemed taken aback by the quiet intensity of Ryan's response. Then his corporate mask slipped back into place, all calculated control. "We'll see how brave you feel after the board meeting." He checked his watch with exaggerated casualness. 90 minutes from now, you'll either be part of the team or part of the problem. Choose wisely, Morgan. After Marcus left, Ryan finished dressing, his hands steady despite the confrontation. The threats only reinforced his determination. He had spent too much of his life bending to circumstances, compromising to survive. Not this time. Not when the difference between right and wrong was so clear. At 1:15, Ryan headed to the executive floor, his completed report tucked under his arm. He found Sophia waiting outside the boardroom, reviewing documents with intense focus. She looked up as he approached her, expression shifting to concern. "You look troubled. Did something happen?" Ryan briefly recounted his encounter with Marcus, including the veiled threats. Sophia's expression hardened with each word, her professional composure cracking to reveal genuine anger. "That crosses every line." Her voice was tight with controlled fury. "Using your daughter as leverage is unconscionable." "It won't work," Ryan assured her. "If anything, it strengthened my resolve." Sophia studied him for a moment, then nodded once. "Good, because this won't be easy. Marcus has allies on the board, people who prioritize quarterly results over long-term integrity." Through the boardroom's glass walls, Ryan could see Marcus and two men in Value Fleet uniforms setting up a presentation. Charts and graphs flashed on the screen, fuel efficiency comparisons, cost analyses, projected savings. "They're going to make a business case for breaking the law," Ryan observed. "Yes, and some board members will find it compelling." Sophia's hand moved unconsciously to her locket again. "Which is why we need to make a human case for following it." At precisely 1:30, the boardroom doors opened. Marcus emerged, gesturing for his Value Fleet colleagues to enter, while he approached Sophia and Ryan with practiced cordiality. "Ms. Kingsley, Mr. Morgan, the board is ready for Value Fleet's presentation. You're welcome to observe before your segment." Sophia's smile was glacial. "Thank you, Marcus. We wouldn't miss it." Inside the boardroom was imposing, a long mahogany table surrounded by 12 leather chairs currently occupied by men and women in expensive business attire. Large windows offered panoramic views of Pittsburgh, the city spread below like a vast model. At the head of the table sat a distinguished older man, whom Sophia introduced as Gerald Harrington, chairman of the board. "Ms. Kingsley, Mr. Morgan, please be seated. Mr. Reynolds has brought some concerning information about our fleet operations that warrants discussion." Ryan took a seat beside Sophia, acutely aware of being the only person in the room without an advanced degree or executive title. Marcus stood at the presentation screen, radiating confident authority as he began. "Board members, thank you for convening on short notice. I've asked representatives from Value Fleet Services to join us because they offer perspective on industry standard practices that Baby First should consider adopting." What followed was a masterclass in corporate doublespeak. Marcus never directly acknowledged the emissions modifications, instead referring to efficiency enhancements and optimization techniques that had saved the company nearly $80,000 in fuel costs over 8 months. The Value Fleet representatives provided supporting data showing similar enhancements across multiple industries, carefully avoiding any mention of regulatory compliance. Charts displayed impressive cost savings projections if fleet maintenance was outsourced to their company, which could standardize these efficiencies across all vehicles. Ryan watched the board members' reactions carefully. Some nodded along with the financial projections, while others maintained poker faces. Sophia remained perfectly still, her expression neutral, but her eyes alert, missing nothing. When Marcus concluded, Chairman Harrington thanked him, then turned to Sophia. "Ms. Kingsley, I understand you have initiated a compliance review of our fleet operations. Please proceed." Sophia stood, her presence commanding despite being outnumbered. "Thank you, Chairman Harrington. What Mr. Reynolds has euphemistically called efficiency enhancements are in fact illegal modifications to our vehicles' emissions control systems." She gestured to Ryan, who distributed copies of his report to each board member. I asked Ryan Morgan, our most qualified fleet mechanic, to conduct a thorough inspection. His findings are disturbing. All 30 delivery vans have been systematically modified to bypass EPA-mandated emissions controls. Ryan stood as Sophia introduced him, feeling every eye in the room assessing him. Mr. Morgan will walk you through the technical details of these modifications and their implications. Taking a deep breath, Ryan began his presentation. He kept his explanation clear and direct, using diagrams to illustrate how the emission systems had been altered and photos documenting the modifications in each vehicle. He presented Tom's historical fuel efficiency data, demonstrating that the improvement Marcus claimed coincided exactly with the illegal modifications. The EPA penalties for these violations can reach $45,000 per vehicle, Ryan concluded. For our fleet of 30 vans, that's a potential fine of $1.35 million, nearly 17 times the fuel cost savings achieved. A heavy silence fell over the room when he finished. Chairman Harrington removed his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. Mr. Reynolds, would you care to respond to these allegations? Marcus rose smoothly, his expression regretful yet reasonable. This is precisely why I've advocated for professional fleet management. Our in-house team, while well-intentioned, clearly lacks the expertise to properly implement efficiency measures while maintaining compliance. The redirection was masterful, acknowledging the violations while shifting blame to the maintenance department rather than operations. Several board members nodded, apparently finding this explanation plausible. If I may be so, Sophia interjected, her voice steel-wrapped in silk. The modifications documented by Mr. Morgan required specialized knowledge and tools not available to our standard maintenance team. They were implemented systematically across all vehicles, following a directive from operations, specifically from Mr. Reynolds' department. Marcus's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Kingsley. Do you have evidence of such a directive? I do. Tom Reeves's voice came from the doorway where he stood holding a folder. Sophia nodded, having clearly arranged his arrival. The board should see this. Tom approached the table, handing the folder to Chairman Harrington. Email correspondence from Mr. Reynolds' office instructing fleet services to implement what he called the optimization protocol on all vehicles, with specific technical details matching the modifications Mr. Morgan documented. The chairman reviewed the documents, his expression darkening. These appear authentic. Mr. Reynolds, Marcus's composure slipped momentarily before he recovered. A misunderstanding. The protocol was meant to optimize within regulatory guidelines. If technicians overstepped, the instructions explicitly detail bypassing emission sensors. Tom interrupted, his weathered face set with determination. There's no ambiguity. The atmosphere in the boardroom shifted palpably. What had begun as a presentation on cost efficiency had transformed into an investigation of deliberate regulatory violations. Marcus glanced at his value fleet allies, who suddenly seemed eager to distance themselves from the discussion. Chairman Harrington addressed the board. I believe we need to continue this discussion in executive session. Mr. Reynolds, gentlemen from Value Fleet, Mr. Reeves, Mr. Morgan, thank you for your presentations. Please excuse us. Missy Kingsley, as CEO, you'll remain. As they filed out of the boardroom, Marcus brushed past Ryan, murmuring, This isn't over, Morgan. In the hallway, Tom clapped Ryan on the shoulder. You did good in there, didn't let them intimidate you. Thanks for coming through with those emails. I didn't know if we'd be able to prove the directive came from Marcus. Tom grimaced. Almost didn't. Was afraid for my job, to be honest. But then I thought about my boy in college studying environmental science of all things. Couldn't look him in the eye if I stayed silent. The two men waited together, watching through the glass as the board engaged in what appeared to be a heated discussion. Sophia remained standing, addressing the members with forceful gestures that suggested she was fighting hard for something. After 45 tense minutes, the boardroom door opened. The chairman's assistant emerged. Mr. Morgan, the board requests your presence. Ryan straightened his tie and entered, finding all eyes turned toward him. Chairman Harrington gestured for him to sit. Mr. Morgan, the board has reached several decisions regarding this situation. Ms. Kingsley has advocated strongly for your role in uncovering these violations, emphasizing your technical expertise and ethical commitment. Ryan glanced at Sophia, whose expression revealed nothing of what must have been an intense debate. First, we've unanimously voted to terminate Marcus Reynolds effective immediately. His deliberate circumvention of environmental regulations exposed this company to unacceptable legal and financial risk. Murmurs of agreement around the table suggested this decision hadn't been particularly contentious. Second, we've rejected the value fleet outsourcing proposal and will instead invest in strengthening our in-house fleet management capabilities. This was clearly a victory for Sophia, who allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. Finally, the chairman continued, we need someone to oversee the restoration of our vehicles to full compliance and develop protocols to prevent future violations. Ms. Kingsley has recommended you for this role as Director of Fleet Compliance, reporting directly to her. The promotion was so unexpected that Ryan momentarily lost his composure. Sir, I'm a mechanic. I don't have management experience or a business degree. You have something more valuable: integrity and technical knowledge, Chairman Harrington replied. You identified a problem that more qualified individuals either missed or ignored, then stood your ground despite considerable pressure. Those qualities are harder to find than management skills, which can be learned. Ryan looked to Sophia, who met his gaze with quiet confidence. I wouldn't have recommended you if I didn't believe you were capable, she said simply. The offer represented everything Ryan needed: job security, career advancement, the ability to provide Lily with stability. Yet it also meant stepping into a role he'd never imagined for himself, taking on responsibilities that would stretch his capabilities. I'd need to learn a lot, he acknowledged, not wanting to accept under false pretenses. We'll provide executive training, Sophia assured him, and Tom Reeves has agreed to serve as your deputy, providing continuity and experience while you develop your management skills. Chairman Harrington checked his watch. Take the weekend to consider the offer, Mr. Morgan. We'll need your decision by Monday. As the meeting concluded, Ryan found himself walking beside Sophia toward the elevator, still processing the dramatic shift in his circumstances. You didn't tell me you were going to recommend me for a director position, he said quietly as they entered the empty elevator. I wasn't sure the board would agree. Sophia pressed the button for the ground floor. But after watching you stand up to Marcus, I knew you were the right choice. You understand that regulations aren't bureaucratic obstacles, they're protections for people and the environment. The elevator descended smoothly, carrying them away from the executive floor and its power dynamics. Ryan felt a weight lifting from his shoulders with each floor they passed. The threat from Marcus neutralized his job, not just secure, but elevated beyond anything he'd imagined. What do you think? Sophia asked as they reached the ground floor. Will you accept? Ryan considered the question honestly. It's a huge opportunity, but also terrifying. I fix engines, not manage departments. The hardest engine I've ever had to rebuild was my own belief in myself, Sophia said, echoing his thoughts with unexpected insight. After my adoption, transitioning from foster care to a stable home, I didn't believe I deserved safety or success. It took years to rebuild that internal engine, the one that powers confidence. The personal revelation offered so naturally created another moment of connection between them. Ryan nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. I want to accept, he said finally, for Lily's future and because I believe in doing things right, but I'll need help learning the ropes. You'll have it. Sophia checked her watch. Speaking of Lily, it's nearly pickup time. I imagine she'll be happy to see her father after yesterday's illness. They walked together toward the childcare center, their conversation shifting to more personal topics. Lily's developing vocabulary. Ryan's plans to look for a better apartment now that his financial situation was improving, Sophia's favorite neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. At the childcare center entrance, Sophia paused. There's a company gathering next weekend, a fall festival for employees and their families. You and Lily should come. It would be a good opportunity to meet people from other departments in a casual setting. The invitation felt like both a professional courtesy and something more personal, an extension of the connection that had been building between them. Ryan found himself looking forward to the possibility of seeing Sophia outside the corporate environment again. We'd like that, he replied, surprised by how much he meant it. Inside the childcare center, Lily spotted Ryan immediately running toward him with her arms outstretched. Dada up! Ryan scooped her into his arms, her small body warm and vibrant against his chest. Over Lily's head, his eyes met Sophia's, finding a soft smile there that seemed reserved for moments like this, genuine human connection amid the corporate machinery. Whatever challenges the new position would bring, whatever learning curve awaited him, Ryan knew with sudden clarity that he was exactly where he and Lily needed to be. Not just surviving anymore, but building something meaningful, a future with stability, purpose, and unexpected connections. As they walked out into the autumn afternoon, Lily chattering happily about her day, Ryan felt a sense of possibility that had been missing from his life for too long. The path ahead wasn't clear or easy, but for the first time since Sarah's death, it felt like they were moving forward rather than just holding ground. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't wearing a uniform or a cape. Sometimes they're just someone who runs toward the fire when everyone else is running away. The thought came unbidden as Ryan glanced back at the Baby First building, thinking of Sophia's silver locket and the untold story it contained. He wondered if someday she might share that story with him, and if his own story might eventually intertwine with hers in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Part 3. Resolution and Conclusion. 12 months after the board meeting that changed everything, Ryan Morgan stood at the head of a classroom converted from an unused section of the Baby First garage. Before him, 10 students, all single parents from various backgrounds, focused intently on the engine components displayed on their workbenches. This was the inaugural class of Second Chance Mechanics, the program Ryan had conceptualized and then brought to life with the company's backing. Remember, diagnose before you replace, Ryan advised, moving between the stations. Half the parts customers are sold don't actually need replacement. Finding what's truly broken, that's the skill that builds trust. The philosophy extended beyond mechanics. Ryan had learned it applied equally well to rebuilding lives, including his own. The past year had transformed him from a desperate father counting pennies for diapers to the director of a department and founder of a community program that was already changing lives. As the session concluded, Ryan watched with quiet satisfaction as his students gathered their tools. Many had arrived 8 weeks ago with the same haunted look he once carried, the weight of sole responsibility, the constant fear of one missed paycheck away from disaster. Now they moved with growing confidence, their faces reflecting the same tentative hope Ryan had felt when Sophia first handed him her business card at the community center. "Great progress today, everyone," Ryan said, closing his teaching manual. "Next week we start on transmissions, my specialty. Trust me, once you master that, you'll never lack for work." A young woman in the front row, a single mother of twins who had been living in her car when the program began, raised her hand. "Will Ms. Kingsley be visiting again?" "The CEO has a company to run," Ryan replied with a smile that didn't quite mask the warmth that appeared whenever Sophia was mentioned. "But yes, she's scheduled to observe next Thursday's session." After the students departed, Ryan cleaned the classroom area, reflecting on how the program had evolved from concept to reality. The board had not only approved his proposal, but had expanded funding beyond his initial request, creating paid apprenticeships for program graduates. 3 former students were already working in the fleet garage, with 2 more placed at partner auto shops in the city. Tom Reeves appeared in the doorway, his weathered face creased in a rare smile. "Classroom looks good. Students too. That single mom with the twins, she's got a real talent. Andrea, I'm thinking she might be our first female master mechanic if she sticks with it." Ryan wiped engine grease from a demonstration part. "How are things upstairs? Quarterly reports ready." "All set for tomorrow's executive meeting." Tom had become Ryan's right hand, handling the day-to-day garage operations, while Ryan split his time between fleet management and the training program. "EPA inspection went perfectly. They're using us as a model for other companies now." The mention of the EPA brought a flash of memory. Marcus Reynolds, his threats, the board meeting that had marked the turning point. The former operations director had departed Pittsburgh shortly after his termination, reportedly taking a position with a smaller competitor in another state. The corporate scandal Ryan had helped uncover had faded into company history, though the lessons remained embedded in Baby First's enhanced compliance protocols. "Almost forgot," Tom added, handing Ryan a manila envelope. "HR sent this over. Something about your 1-year review." Ryan accepted the envelope, aware that exactly 1 year had passed since his promotion to Director of Fleet Compliance. The position had stretched him beyond anything he'd imagined, forcing him to develop skills far removed from his mechanical expertise: budgeting, personnel management, public speaking, corporate politics. There had been missteps and moments of doubt, but with Sophia's steady guidance and Tom's practical support, he had found his footing. "Thanks, I'll look it over tonight." Ryan checked his watch. I need to pick up Lily. Anna said they're having a little graduation ceremony for the kids moving up to the preschool room. That kid of yours, Tom shook his head with grandfatherly affection. Smart as a whip. My wife can't stop talking about how she explained carburetors to her at the company picnic. Ryan laughed. She absorbs everything in the garage. I'm trying to expand her vocabulary beyond torque, wrench, and timing belt. As Ryan made his way to the child care center, he greeted colleagues from various departments. The past year had integrated him into the corporate structure in ways that still occasionally felt surreal. Executives who had once regarded him with skepticism now sought his input on sustainability initiatives and community programs. His journey from the garage floor to the executive floor hadn't erased his working-class sensibilities, but it had broadened his perspective on how corporate resources could be harnessed for positive change. The child care center buzzed with activity as 2.5-year-olds in paper graduation caps paraded around the room. Ryan spotted Lily immediately, her dark curls peeking out from under her slightly askew cap, her expression serious as she carefully carried her diploma, a rolled construction paper tied with ribbon. Anna Martinez approached, beaming with pride. She insisted on practicing her walk all morning, very determined to do it perfectly. Gets that from her mother, Ryan replied, watching as Lily completed her ceremonial circuit. Sarah's absence from these milestones had become a familiar ache present, but no longer debilitating. He had learned to honor her memory by recognizing her traits in their daughter, rather than dwelling on what should have been. Lily spotted him and broke formation, running toward him with her diploma held high. Dada, I graduated. Ryan scooped her up, pride swelling in his chest. You sure did, Lily Pad. I'm so proud of you. Miss Fia said she's proud too. Lily waved toward the back of the room where Sophia stood, quietly observing the ceremony. Ryan hadn't noticed her arrival. Their eyes met across the room and Sophia offered a small wave before approaching. In her tailored suit and heels, she stood out among the colorful classroom decorations, yet she moved through the space with comfortable familiarity, greeting children and staff by name. I didn't know you were coming to this, Ryan said as she reached them. Couldn't miss Lily's big day. Sophia smiled at the little girl. That was a perfect graduation walk, Lily. Very dignified. Lily beamed at the praise. I practiced and practiced. Like Dada says about fixing engines, practice makes perfect. Smart girl, Sophia replied, her expression softening, as it always did around Lily. Your father is very wise about many things. The comment carried layers of meaning that weren't lost on Ryan. Over the past year, his relationship with Sophia had evolved in careful, measured steps. Their professional collaboration had deepened into friendship, then gradually into something more undefined but undeniable. They had developed routines and traditions, monthly dinners at Sophia's penthouse where Lily was included as a matter of course, Sunday afternoon outings to museums or parks, quiet conversations after Lily's bedtime when Sophia occasionally stopped by with work documents that somehow never got opened. Yet neither had pushed to formalize their relationship. Ryan's healing from Sarah's loss was ongoing. Sophia's responsibilities to her company and her sister required careful attention, and both recognized the potential complications of a CEO dating a director who reported to her. Instead, they had allowed their connection to develop, naturally building trust and understanding without external pressure. Will you come for dinner tonight? Ryan asked as they walked Lily to his car. James sent a package of fresh citrus from Florida. I'm thinking fish tacos. James Whitfield's relationship with Ryan had transformed dramatically over the past year. After witnessing Ryan's career advancement in the stable home he had created for Lily, James had acknowledged his misjudgment and become a supportive presence in their lives. He visited Pittsburgh quarterly, stayed in their guest room, and regularly sent packages from Florida. The healing of that relationship had been unexpected, but welcome, giving Lily a connection to her mother's family that Ryan had once feared might be lost. I'd like that, Sophia replied, but I need to check on Emily first. She has a new medication adjustment. Emily Kingsley had also become part of their extended circle. After several hospitalizations early in the year, she had stabilized with a new treatment regimen and moved into a supported living apartment complex funded by the Baby First Foundation. She visited for dinner twice monthly and had developed a special bond with Lily, who seemed to instinctively understand Emily's need for gentleness and patience. Give her our love, Ryan said. Tell her Lily finished the puzzle they started last time. I will. 7 o'clock. Perfect. As Sophia walked toward her car, Ryan felt the familiar warmth her presence always evoked. Their careful dance of professional and personal had created a rhythm that worked in allowing them to build something meaningful without disrupting the stability both had worked so hard to achieve. At home, Ryan settled Lily with her favorite picture books while he prepared dinner. Their condo had gradually become a true home over the past year, walls filled with Lily's artwork bookshelves lined with both children's stories and Ryan's growing collection of management and leadership texts, countertops bearing the comfortable clutter of family life. The eviction notice and desperate penny counting of their previous life seemed like another lifetime, though Ryan kept the memories close as motivation and perspective. As he chopped vegetables for the tacos, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Emily's doing well, should be there by 7. I have news about the training program. Ryan smiled, curious about the news. The Second Chance Mechanics program had become a point of pride for Baby. First featured in industry publications and garnering attention from other corporations interested in replicating the model. Any news would likely be positive, perhaps the expanded funding they'd requested for a second classroom. Lily helped with dinner preparations, standing on her step stool to carefully tear lettuce leaves. Is Miss Fia staying for stories tonight? If she's not too tired, Ryan replied, noting how Lily had come to expect Sophia's presence in their evening routine. I want her to read the dinosaur book. She does the best dinosaur voices. Ryan laughed. Better than my dinosaur voices. Different. Lily considered this seriously. Yours are more growly, hers are more royal. Royal dinosaurs, huh? I'll have to work on that. The doorbell rang precisely at 7. Ryan had noticed early on that Sophia was meticulously punctual, a trait he attributed to her years of corporate scheduling. He opened the door to find her in casual clothes, jeans, and a soft sweater with a small gift bag in hand. For the graduate, she explained, handing the bag to Lily, who had rushed to the door at the sound of the bell. Lily opened the gift with careful precision, revealing a child-sized tool belt with plastic tools. My own tools like Dada's. So you can help with all those important projects, Sophia said, kneeling to Lily's level. Every good mechanic needs proper tools. The sight of Sophia, the polished, powerful CEO, kneeling on his living room floor, helping Lily adjust her tool belt, struck Ryan forcefully. This woman, who commanded boardrooms and managed multi-million-dollar decisions, showed the same focused attention when discussing Lily's preschool achievements or helping her learn to use a toy wrench. Dinner was relaxed and lively, with Lily dominating the conversation with detailed accounts of her graduation ceremony. Ryan and Sophia exchanged amused glances over her head, the silent communication of adults who had developed their own language around a child's enthusiastic storytelling. After Lily was bathed and pajama-clad, she insisted that both Ryan and Sophia participate in story time. They sat on either side of her small bed, taking turns reading pages of the dinosaur book, each attempting to outdo the other with increasingly elaborate dinosaur voices. Lily's delighted giggles eventually gave way to heavy eyelids, and she drifted off with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. In the living room, Ryan poured 2 glasses of wine, a small luxury he had added to their routine in recent months. You mentioned the news about the program. Sophia settled on the couch, tucking her feet beneath her in a gesture of casual comfort that belonged to their private interactions never seen in the office. The board approved the expansion, 2 more classrooms, funding for 5 years, and a partnership with the community college for certification. That's incredible. Ryan sat beside her, the excitement of this development sinking in. With certification, the graduates can command higher wages, apply for better positions. There's more. Sophia's expression held something beyond professional satisfaction. Gerald Harrington is establishing a separate foundation to roll this out nationally. He wants you to head it. The offer took Ryan completely by surprise. A national program, me. Who better? You created the model, you understand both the technical and human elements. The foundation would be separate from Baby First, but affiliated, you'd be building something that could change thousands of lives. The scale of the opportunity was staggering. Ryan had focused so intently on making the program work locally that he hadn't considered the potential for national expansion. What would this mean practically? Travel relocation? Some travel for setup and training, but you'd be based here in Pittsburgh. The foundation would have its own board, its own funding stream. Sophia paused, something shifting in her expression. And it would change our professional relationship. You wouldn't be reporting to me anymore. The implication hung in the air between them. The corporate hierarchy that had complicated their personal connection would no longer be a factor. Ryan studied her face, seeing beyond the CEO to the woman who had become essential to his and Lily's lives. Is that part of why you're telling me this privately before the official offer? Sophia nodded, her usual corporate confidence giving way to a more personal vulnerability. I've been careful. We both have to maintain appropriate boundaries because of our professional relationship. This would change that dynamic. And how do you feel about that? Ryan asked the question, extending beyond professional considerations. Sophia's fingers moved to the silver locket she always wore, her unconscious gesture when approaching emotional territory. I've spent my adult life building walls between personal and professional. With you and Lily, those walls have become inconvenient. The careful understatement made Ryan smile. Inconvenient. That's one way to put it. What I'm trying to say, Sophia continued, meeting his eyes directly, is that I would welcome the change, if you would. The moment felt significant, a threshold they had been approaching for months. Ryan thought of their journey from that first encounter at the checkout counter to this moment on his couch, the myriad ways their lives had become intertwined. I would, he said simply. Very much. Something softened in Sophia's expression, relief perhaps, or the release of long-held caution. She reached for his hand, the gesture both new and familiar at once. The foundation offer stands regardless. I want that to be clear. This, she indicated the space between them, is separate from that. I know. Ryan understood her need to maintain the integrity of both decisions. That's why I trust both. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wished. Instead, she met him halfway. Their first kiss was gentle, unhurried, the natural continuation of a connection that had been building for over a year rather than a sudden impulse. When they separated, Sophia smiled. I've been thinking about doing that for approximately 11 months. Your restraint is impressive, Ryan replied, returning her smile. I've been thinking about it since that night you brought soup when Lily was sick. The memory of that evening, Sophia in his kitchen, helping care for Lily, bringing both practical aid and emotional support, had marked a turning point in his understanding of her character. Behind the corporate facade was a woman who understood care and commitment at the deepest level. We'll need to proceed carefully, Sophia said, ever the strategist. For Lily's sake, for the company's, for Emily's. Agreed. Ryan appreciated her consideration of all the moving pieces. No rush. We've built something good already. We can be deliberate about what comes next. The conversation shifted to practical matters, the timing of the foundation announcement, the transition plan for the fleet department, the parameters of the national program. They discussed options and implications with the same thoughtful partnership that had characterized their professional collaboration, now infused with the warmth of acknowledged personal connection. Later, as Ryan walked Sophia to her car, the night air crisp with early autumn, she paused before getting in. There's one more thing I've been meaning to tell you about my locket. She opened the small silver pendant that always hung around her neck, revealing the tiny photograph and the initials RM that Ryan had seen once before. I told you these were my birth mother's initials, Rebecca Martin. Yes, I remember. What I didn't tell you was that she didn't die in the orphanage fire. She dropped me there and disappeared. Sophia's voice held old pain, carefully managed. The fire happened 3 years later. A boy saved me, a boy whose name I never knew. Ryan listened, sensing the importance of this revelation. Why are you telling me this now? Because trust requires truth. And because I've spent my life looking for people who run toward fires instead of away from them. She closed the locket carefully. You're one of those people, Ryan. You always have been. The observation touched something fundamental in Ryan's self-understanding. He had never considered his actions particularly heroic, just necessary responses to the circumstances life presented. Yet through Sophia's eyes, he could see the pattern of stepping forward when others stepped back, whether in combat zones, family crises, or corporate challenges. So are you, he replied, recognizing the same quality in her, the willingness to face difficulties directly, to take responsibility when others deflected it. Sophia's smile held both vulnerability and strength. Perhaps that's why we found each other. After she drove away, Ryan stood in the parking area for a moment, processing the evening's developments. The foundation offer represented professional advancement beyond anything he had imagined when desperately counting coins for diapers. The shift in his relationship with Sophia promised personal fulfillment he hadn't thought possible after Sarah's death. Yet what struck him most powerfully was not the potential for future happiness, but appreciation for the present moment, the stability he had built for Lily, the meaningful work he had created, the relationships he had nurtured. The journey from survival to thriving had happened so gradually he had scarcely noticed the transition. Upstairs, Ryan checked on Lily, finding her sleeping peacefully with her stuffed rabbit and new tool belt. He adjusted her blanket, thinking of the opportunities that would be available to her through the foundation's work. Not just material security, but the example of purposeful work and genuine connection. At his desk, Ryan opened the manila envelope Tom had given him earlier, expecting performance metrics and evaluation forms. Instead, he found a formal letter confirming his promotion to executive director, along with a substantial salary increase and expanded benefits package. Paperclipped to the letter was a handwritten note from Gerald Harrington in recognition of exceptional leadership. The foundation offer comes later this week. We're fortunate to have you, Morgan. Ryan set the papers aside, strangely unmoved by the financial implications. The money would be useful. The final payments on Sarah's medical bills could be completed. Lily's college fund increased, perhaps a slightly larger home with a proper yard. But the validation of his work carried greater significance than the monetary reward. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Home safe, thinking about royal dinosaurs and new beginnings. Breakfast tomorrow before the executive meeting. Ryan smiled as he typed his reply. Absolutely, Lily insists you need to see her wear her tool belt to preschool. 7:30 work. The immediate response, perfect. Sleep well. As Ryan prepared for bed, he thought about the parallels between mechanical work and life reconstruction. Both required patience, proper tools, and the ability to distinguish between what needed replacement and what could be restored. The engines he had rebuilt throughout his career followed predictable patterns, parts fit together in predetermined ways. Problems had identifiable solutions. Life was messier, less predictable. The components didn't always fit neatly, the solutions weren't always clear, yet the fundamental principle remained the same. Identify what's broken, preserve what works, and rebuild with care and attention to detail. Standing at the window looking out at the city lights, Ryan felt a profound sense of rightness, not because everything was perfect, but because he had learned to work with what life presented to build something meaningful from available materials. The broken parts remained part of the whole, incorporated rather than discarded, contributing to the character and resilience of the finished work. His thoughts turned to Sarah, not with the sharp pain of early grief, but with quiet appreciation for her place in the story. She remained present in Lily's expressions, in the virtues Ryan carried forward, in the foundation of the life he continued to build. The new connection with Sophia didn't replace or diminish that reality. It added another dimension to an ongoing narrative. The next morning dawned clear and cool, autumn asserting itself in the crispness of the air and the hints of color in the trees. Ryan moved through the morning routine with practiced efficiency, helping Lily dress and proudly attach her tool belt over her preschool clothes. Miss Fia is coming for breakfast, he reminded her as they gathered her backpack. Lily nodded seriously. I know. I'm going to show her how I can use all my tools and maybe fix her car. One step at a time, Engineer Morgan. Ryan laughed. Maybe start with your toy workbench before moving to actual vehicles. The doorbell rang precisely at 7:30. Sophia stood on the threshold with a bakery box and coffee carrier. Good morning, Morgans. I brought reinforcements. Lily immediately launched into a demonstration of her tool belt features, narrating each plastic instrument's purpose with surprising accuracy. Sophia listened with complete attention, asking questions and expressing appropriate amazement at Lily's technical knowledge. The domestic scene, breakfast pastries, coffee, a chattering child shared, smiles over her head, felt both ordinary and extraordinary. Ryan found himself pausing to appreciate the moment, capturing the image in his memory. Sophia helping Lily spread jam on her pastry, the morning light catching the silver locket around her neck, the easy comfort of their interaction. This, he realized, was what he had been working toward all along. Not just survival, not just stability, but genuine connection and purpose. The financial security, the career advancement, the improved living conditions, all were meaningful primarily as scaffolding for these essential elements. As they prepared to leave Ryan and Sophia to the executive meeting Lily, to preschool, Ryan felt a sense of alignment between past, present, and future that had been missing since Sarah's death. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear, but the direction was right, the foundation solid. Sophia caught his contemplative expression as they walked to their cars. Deep thoughts this morning. Just appreciating how far we've come, Ryan replied. All of us. She nodded, understanding the layers of his observation. And thinking about where we're going. That too. Ryan helped Lily into her car seat, securing the straps while she continued to explain her tools to her stuffed rabbit. The view looks good from here. Sophia's smile held both professional confidence and personal warmth. It does indeed, Director Morgan. Better than I could have imagined a year ago. As they drove toward Baby First Industries, Sophia's Audi leading Ryan's SUV following, he reflected on the day Sophia had first directed him to the Human Resources Department, the business cards solid between his fingers, the hope and wariness that had accompanied that first step. He couldn't have envisioned then where that path would lead, not just to financial stability, but to meaningful work, genuine connection, and renewed purpose. The company building came into view, its renovated brick facade now familiar and welcoming rather than intimidating. In the rearview mirror, Ryan could see Lily playing with her tool belt buckle, her expression serious and focused, so like her mother's. Ahead, Sophia's car turned smoothly into the executive parking area, where a space had been reserved for him as well. Ryan pulled into his designated spot, a small but significant marker of his place in the corporate structure. As he helped Lily from her car seat, Sophia approached, her professional demeanor already settling into place for the workday ahead, though her eyes still held the warmth of their breakfast conversation. "Ready for the executive meeting?" she asked. "Ready," Ryan confirmed, taking Lily's hand as they walked toward the building entrance. "For all of it." The glass doors slid open, welcoming them into the lobby where his journey had begun with uncertainty and desperation just over a year ago. Now he entered with confidence and purpose, his daughter's hand in his future taking shape with each deliberate step forward. Ryan Morgan had always fixed broken things. Now he understood that some things weren't meant to be fixed, they were meant to be transformed, rebuilt into something new that honored the original design while creating space for unexpected possibilities. His life had become such a creation, not repaired to its previous state, but reconstructed into something stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more fulfilling than he could have imagined when counting pennies for diapers at that Save Mart checkout counter. As they walked through the lobby toward the childcare center, Ryan felt not the completion of a journey, but the solid foundation for what came next. A future built with the same care, attention to detail, and integrity he had always brought to his work, now extended to every aspect of his life.